All right, y'all, let's do this thing. Leland Live, talking to M5. Danny Knowles with the Knowles Group bringing you the show this hour. Man, Danny's got it going on over there. And in times like this, when there's so much optimism among people that actually pay attention to the markets and things that are going on, you don't want to miss the upswing. You also don't want to panic when downswings happen because they're going to happen. It's just markets, it's what happens. Let Danny and his team help you, guide you, work with you, and get you through all this stuff. They do it on a regular basis and they're ready to help you too. It's just a great operation that he set up over the years to take good care of this audience. And so y'all reach out to him and sit down with him and start to determine some things. Sometimes you just need to know, man, how much, when can I retire? Because some people, you got to put it off a little bit. Some people, if you work hard and you're aggressive and you've got a goal in mind, he can tell you what you need to do to get there. And sometimes that's all you need. You need a plan. It's just like when you're working out, you need a fitness coach. You need somebody to point you in that direction. Let Danny help. He is a great guy. I've known him his whole life. I always put that in there because it's, for me, when I talk about Danny, it's much more of a personal reference than anything because I've known him. We've known each other since we were 10 years old. We grew up and graduated high school together. And he's always been a straight shooter, whether he would say things nobody else would say. That's just Danny. So y'all reach out to him and get to know his sons. They're fine young men too. They've grown up around their father and learned from the best, and they'll just help you with such a kind, understanding way, not talk over your head and kind of big shot you, but let you get what you're trying to get out of your money and let your money work for you. It's the knowlesgroup.com, N-O-L-E-S, the knowlesgroup.com. Man, we had stories coming in us so fast today. It feels like I've expired a lot of my thoughts on them. So if y'all got some phone calls, throw them in here and we'll change the subject, whatever you got tonight, as we're getting wrapped up for the week. One thing I haven't got to, there are these statistics that keep coming out on how things are going on the economy. And a new one popped up today that really, to me, it screamed this morning as I'm perusing the news and looking at headlines. Um, SNAP recipients are down in this country. Just try to wrap your head around this number. We throw numbers out so much, a million people to sound, $1 billion here, a million people there. There are 1.75 fewer SNAP benefit recipients in this country than they were just 1 year ago when the Trump administration took office. 1.75 million people fewer on the SNAP program. So, what do we deduce from that? One, there's probably a lot of cheating and waste in the program. Two, we know some of those programs are being used for these illegal immigrants that are now also being sent home to fend for themselves and deal with their own country's programs. Two, a lot of the fraud and abuse that got caught caused some people to be more cautious about signing up for these things and abusing them. So, what tremendous waste. We've focused a lot on the Somali situation in Minnesota. There's news stories today about healthcare related fraudulent companies out of California. I think when this is all done, as now we see the business model and you start to replicate it, you're going to be able to look at California the numbers alone are going to swamp Minnesota. And it'll be whole different foreign communities because it was a lot of these foreign nations that were being propped up and set up to take advantage of these programs. But think about a million 7.5. That's almost 2 million. We won't even have to round it off. That is like if you just take the metro area of Birmingham. Well, not the whole metro, the city limits of Birmingham. That's like 6 Birminghams, full of people. 6 cities the size of downtown Birmingham, full of people that were taking money from that program that's meant for the needy and the hungry. We can't both have SNAP and the abuse of SNAP the way that has gone and the money that it has sucked out of us. Look, now our government wastes money on everything. It wastes money on defense. It wastes money on foreign government spending. It's just rolling in our money and it continues to waste it. But that's a stunning number. And it also tells you we're going in the right direction. So while we pay attention to things like gas prices and things like that that affect our daily lives, Trump had another statistic today. I'm going to take him at his word because he generally, gets briefed on these things and he puts out his track record just as quickly as he can. But he had a statistic today that for the first time in 30 something years, we are making more steel than the Japanese. Hello. Anybody from Birmingham, especially you old timers that understand what that industry meant to the growth and rise of this city. And the folks up in Pittsburgh, we were, because of globalist trade deals, run out of our own steel business. And steel is so essential to so many things here in this country, defense for one. And we got priced out with slave labor out of China and steel dumping back into the country. These people could make it over there and dump it into here and deflate the prices and make it impossible for manufacturers to produce, because the price point drops from the cheap steel that comes in. And then they ran our factories off and ran a lot of jobs off and all the support jobs that go with it. And that's starting to make a comeback, that we're ramping up production and manufacturing again. Energy production, oil is setting records of the oil we're getting out of ground, so we can be less dependent on the rest of the world. That's starting to happen. These things start to add up. We are returning to some sensibility with a manufacturing base, and just getting some of these government programs under control has been great. We haven't had a single legitimate border crossing since they shut the border down just a few weeks after Trump took office. Proves you could have done it the whole time. Both Democrats and the Republicans were lying about the border issue being a standoff and not fixable, that you needed, how many times did we hear, comprehensive immigration reform? No, you just needed balls. Doug is in Odenville. Let's get a couple more phone calls in here. 545-9950 if you want to be on the show. Doug, what's going on, man?
Well, I didn't really want to talk on the radio. I just wondered, I'd heard a nasty rumor that Mike Rogers and 4 other of our representatives had voted for a House Resolution 7006, which would give $5 billion to immigrants. I was wondering if you'd heard anything about that.
No, I know they just passed a big NDA bill. He's made some votes that I do not agree with lately, and we were pretty fired up about some of those last week. But I don't know specifically that bill or that bill number or what you're talking about.
Well, there's another one where him and 2 others had voted down an amendment number 2 on 7148, which would cut funding for abortions and this sex change stuff. They voted that down, but then they vote for $5 billion to immigrants. I'm not against immigrants if they're here illegally, or if a church or some group wants to sponsor them, but I don't feel like it's not up to our government to take care of these immigrants when they come over here knocking on the door.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd find a lot of sympathy with that notion here on the show. I don't know the specifics on that. I do know that both, and it's not personal because I've known these 2 guys since I was much younger myself, but Aderholt and Rogers have just been there too long. It's time for fresh blood. I'm not even sure if they have opponents in this particular cycle.
Well, that's the deal. When it comes time to shut off the people who can run, that's when they go crazy voting stupid stuff that you don't really support.
Yep. Well, when you don't have competition, because you're a one-party state and your own party won't run anybody against you, you can get away with what you want to.
You're absolutely right. Yep. And I heard a nasty rumor that one of our senators was on the banking committee and buying bank stock for a profit.
Yeah, I just went through some of that. That's Katie Britt that's facing that accusation. That is actually the way it's explained is it was her husband's retirement portfolio, and they made a purchase of, I think it was J.P. Morgan, had a 30% increase, but did not disclose it. It's actually legal for them for a spouse to have a 401k investing in those kind of stocks, but it doesn't pass.
Yeah,
the smell test.
I understood that they had a $200 fine. That's like getting a speeding ticket.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and I went through a kind of a takedown of that just a little while ago. I'm willing to give a little bit of benefit of the doubt.
That.
That's all right, buddy.
Yeah,
no problem.
All right. Well, appreciate you taking my call.
Thank you, Doug. Doug over in Odenville getting it done for us this afternoon. Again, 545-9950 if y'all want to get into any of this stuff. Some of it's tedious. Some of it is more frivolous this afternoon. I'm watching a few developing stories because that tends to be how we do the show. We're a little bit live news oriented here on the show. So one of the things is this arraignment in first court appearance by Don Lemon this afternoon. Of course, my bell went off and I realized we're not going to see video of the actual courtroom appearance because it's in federal court. But apparently, there's a huge bank of cameras outside of the courthouse in L.A. Where he is to appear before a judge. It's not going to surprise me he's going to immediately be bonded out for this type of crime. You can expect him to be in front of a camera lying about something very, very soon. It's not going to surprise me at all. I can't imagine a California federal judge is going to be that difficult to deal with over a case of this nature. But the charges are significant, and there's some admission tonight that I don't know if this happened during the arraignment or what, but this just came across that he admitted that at one point during the pre-coverage of that raid on that church, that he turned his cameras off. And I remember him saying this on that little live shot that he did. He turned his cameras off so as not to disclose the location of the raid that was about to happen. So he teased it as if this was going to be another direct action and he was going to get to go along, and then intentionally did not inform the audience, that is, to keep the element of surprise for the people that raided the church. So that's participation. He's covering for them, protecting the secrecy of the operation, went into the facility with them, participated in harassing, because his questioning of that pastor was pure harassment. In the middle of a service, that's not journalism. Y'all, I know journalism. I did journalism. It's not journalism. And we know that. Every sane person knows that. That's a fig leaf that no one's going to be able to hide behind. And he's not, I mean, that's egregious in and of itself. But even these other protesters that got charged, I think they added 5 more charges to some of the others that went in there. At some point, we have to draw a line around some things about decency. I heard somebody put it this way today, especially to your favorite lefty that thinks, well, Don Lemon's a journalist and he's got a First Amendment right to report. Well, how about this? Well, he wasn't reporting because you don't turn your cameras off to protect an operation. That's not reporting. But at the same time, so what they would be saying to you is this. So it's cool if I want to go, if I'm pissed off at Islam today, I want to go bust up in a mosque and disrupt their services and yell at those people because I don't like them. That's exactly what Don Lemon and his cohorts did that day. He even went so far as to point out that they were white and privileged. They don't know that. They don't know those congregants at that congregation. They're just, they turned it racial, which also gets into more civil rights problems for him. And he did that both before in some of his reporting and after. So this dude's in a heap of doo-doo. It couldn't happen to a nicer fellow. We'll keep you updated if there's anything dramatic associated with it. I would imagine, what is it like? So it's almost 5 o'clock here. It's probably only 3 in the afternoon out on the West Coast. And so, yeah, that hearing will probably be wrapped up here pretty soon, it being a Friday afternoon. And we'll let you know what they do with old Don Lemon this afternoon. What a jerk. What an absolute jerk. Back here in a minute. Y'all stay tuned. All right, let's go. Let's go. One more time for Southern Skies Dermatology. Y'all go get checked for skin cancer. I had two or three of our listeners just the last week or so reach out, and I get this. I've gotten this the whole time over the years. They'll look out, they'll reach out and say, "Man, I wouldn't have gone. Thank you for giving me that nudge. I went, and guess what they found, and they're going to take care of it, and I feel good because I went, and that might have saved my life." And I've heard that story at least, I guarantee it's been 100 times over the years for people that take the time to reach back out, because it's not something, skin cancer is not something that's typically on our minds. We're not thinking about it a whole lot. And I've talked to you about this over the years as well. You got other screenings that get a lot of publicity and a lot of promotion for us to do to stay on top of our health. For example, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. That's a great thing, man. October, and all the football players wearing pink and everybody wearing pink to remind folks to be checked and be vigilant on that. That's great. That's great. And I think it's opened up conversations. It helps people move forward. Even colorectal. There used to be I think they still do a 5K here in Birmingham that's dedicated to awareness on that. Men are encouraged to do our prostate screenings at a certain age and on a regular basis. And but skin cancer, man, even though it's more prevalent, it's 1 in 5 people will get it. We just don't hear a whole lot of. There's no color campaign or anything that goes with it. So I'm here to help, and what I'm here to tell you about is Southern Skies Dermatology. I've got a family history of it, especially with my mom, and I've had others in my family over the years that have come down with different versions of it. So for me, my age, and I know my history of how much we used to all get sunburned back in the day. I stay checked on that. If anything pops up of concern, I'll go get it checked without even hesitation. And we should all be able to do those kind of things. I want to live a long time. I want to try to see how this all turns out. And you don't want something like melanoma sneaking up on you. I tell this story a lot too. I met Dr. Mario after he took over the practice. I went in just to get to know him, and he was going to stay on the show with us, and loved what we'd been doing for the practice. And he's a Mohs expert, so he fit right in when he decided to come here. And I remember he looked at his shoes and he looked back at me. He said, "Sometimes I feel bad. People can come in and I think, man, if you'd have just gotten here a couple of weeks ago," or I think the actual quote was 6 weeks ago. Sometimes you wait just a little too long, and it begins to be more difficult to treat because it can travel. And I didn't even know this either. Melanoma can travel internally, and that's the situation my mom wound up dealing with. And man, she's tough, but I would not want to have to go through what she's had to go through in her life, and you don't either. And she told me to tell you all that. So go get checked and do it. Put it on your list. If we're all doing more healthy things and getting on it, then do this too. Do your screenings and do all your things. And the place you want to go without question is Southern Skies Dermatology. They've got a new location coming up this year, and I almost said it. I almost said where it is. They told me the town, but I don't know exactly where it is. They said to hold off yet, because what'll happen is people will start trying to show up and they're not ready to open the doors. But when they do, I'll be happy to let you know about that expansion, and I think it's going to provide some serious convenience to some folks that need access to Southern Skies. But again, put this in your list of experts from the show, Southern Skies Dermatology.com, Southern Skies Dermatology.com. Well, as I just skip along here, bouncing between stories as sometimes we do, I'm seeing there's another. We haven't learned much that's new with the Epstein file released today so far. More details of the same shady characters that we've always known about: Prince Andrew and Bill Gates and all of those just creep dudes. But just a second ago, I looked up and there's a story about a guy associated with the New York Giants, and my computer decided to scroll on me. But apparently Epstein set this guy up, and I lost his name because I'm not as familiar with the NFL as the average bear. Here it is. I think this is it. His New York Giants co-owner, Steve Tisch, apparently Epstein scored women for him. Epstein went out and hooked him up. Was he just running a prostitution operation? Because it says women. This doesn't mean underage girls. But apparently Epstein, now we're into NFL sports. So you got tech geek CEOs. You've got intellectuals at MIT and Harvard and some of those places in that part of the world, thought leaders. They're politicians, clearly. The royal family. There's some There are other specious allegations apparently in here too about the Bush family. But that doesn't have any more credibility than the Trump stuff because, again, the FBI opened up a tip line and allowed anonymous people to call in and say, hey, I understood Prince Albert in a can was also on Epstein Island or whatever pranksters do. And then the FBI is stuck having to chase down these crazy leads. So anyway, so there's that. I'm still watching to see if anything develops on that story this afternoon that's of real note. But there's that story tonight. So the NFL now all in the Epstein case. I don't know that guy cares, but we'll see where that goes. Now, I just looked up and saw some Winter Olympic stuff, and a story popped up today I wasn't going to get to, but maybe we'll just talk about it for a minute. Lindsey Vonn, I guess her event is downhill skiing. Is that right, AJ? She's a skier. I know she's a skier because she used to be on those chapstick commercials.
Mm-hmm.
She'd be the skiing and talking about chapstick. And then wasn't she dating Tebow for a while or something? I just have this memory of this young lady being like the popular skier, but she's back in the news today because she got airlifted. She was in Switzerland. I believe these were qualifying rounds for the Winter Olympics, and she's lost control of her after a jump. She lost control of her skis, I guess, and made a tumble and came up gimpy. And I think they said she was holding a knee. So there's no way to get you out of there but an airlift with that kind of powder and on the side of a hill. They have a helicopter on standby for this stuff. So they had a couple of guys helping her, and they strapped them all together and picked them up with a helicopter and took her off. There hasn't been a report on her condition this afternoon that I know of. But the Winter Olympics are coming up this year. Sometimes those can be fun to watch. And this year they're in Milan, and I stumbled upon one of the villages where they're going to be held this year, and I had no idea. We had booked on my summer trip last year, that part of Italy. We had not seen the very northern part of Italy up in the Alps, and we had booked this little town called Cortina. It's got a longer name, but I just remembered it's Cortina. And so what I didn't know when we got there, and I've told this story when I got back, we roll up in there and find the hotel. We're in a rental car, and it's one of the most beautiful little towns I've ever seen. It's sitting everywhere you look when you're in the cute little town is a mountain. It looks like you're in a Swiss village. The architecture looks more German than Italian, so you feel like you're in a different country, but it's Italy. They're speaking Italian, and they're Italians, but they're so close to that part of Europe that everything, the food even changes a little bit. But anyway, we were mesmerized by this little town, and they had an event going on of these people that go out and trail run. AJ, they'll run like 56 miles up and down mountains. I'm not talking about on a flat trail like you and I did 100 years ago on that 5K and we almost killed us.
Mm-hmm.
These people will go out and with these two poles, and they're the fittest people I've ever seen. So we roll up in there, and everywhere I looked was these super athletic fit people with these little bicycle looking pants on and these funny shoes with poles in their hands. I thought, what the hell is going on here? What is it with this town? Why are all these people dressed like this? And because when you're in a foreign country, you expect it to be different. So then when we finally got into town, we realized that event was going on, and these runners were coming down off the mountain, and they run through this big tunnel, and the whole town cheers, and people are drinking beer and cheering them when they come back in. I was fine with the drinking beer part and cheering them. That was my role. Because I did an 8-mile hike that I swear to God I was going to die. I was going to die on top of a mountain, and y'all would never hear from me again. But somehow we survived it and made it home. But anyway, back to the Olympics. So I saw some Olympic logos off in a corner, and I saw a countdown clock. It turns out this is one of the towns that's going to host the Olympics this year. So it's kind of a neat little memory. It is just a stunning place that in the world that I had never even heard of. But I'm sure they're going to do a good job. And they were hyped. It reminded me of the hype around the South for the 96 Olympics when, for the first time the world was going to come to the South. Now, y'all, I ain't talking about the World Games that Birmingham had. This is a little different. But we were going to have the Olympics, and I think Birmingham had a soccer venue and towns all around here. You get excited about that stuff. But I think the Winter Olympics are in 2 weeks. And as I've always described it, it's basically white people sliding around on ice.
That's pretty much.
That's the Winter Olympics. It's the luge. What is it? The curling.
Curling.
They'd be with the little mop and the thing.
Yeah. Figure skating.
Being a Southerner, I didn't slide around anything. I've never had on a pair of ice skates.
Now, what they could do, to kind of make it a little bit more fresher, kind of freshen up some of the games, do driving on ice. And if you can
like
drive on ice and
NASCAR
park,
on ice, yes, we could freeze down a track and see if people can handle it.
Yes,
I like that thinking. That's very out of the box.
If you can carry your groceries, to your door without falling, you score.
That would be a real life ice Olympics that we could all relate to. I agree with that, 100%, man.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you got to freshen up a little bit. I mean, nobody's really like. I mean, you got to think about what we are. You got to relate to the times that we're in right now.
Yeah, and they will never beat the ratings of Tonya Harding trying to take out Nancy Kerrigan with by breaking her knees.
That should have been
the world will never see that again. That's as redneck as the Winter Olympics are ever going to get. All right, top of the hour. Back in a minute.